everyone. Welcome back to the Things Conference. And my name is Stacey Higginbotham. I am the host of the Internet of Things podcast and the Stacey and IoT newsletter. And I have Vanja Samuelsson here, who is the CEO of Qoitech. And we are going to be talking about low power and keeping things super low power. So hello, Vanja. How are you?
Hi, Stacey. I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. So you guys make a line of power analyzers, battery simulators, all of this. And I think that's really essential for the Internet of Things if we're talking about, putting trillions of sensors. Okay, let's be real. Billions of sensors out there. You can't just be changing the battery all the time. So let's talk about how LoRa stands when it compares to some of the other low power wide area networks out there.
Yeah. I think it's like your community will probably agree. There are a lot of different options you can do when you are picking the technology, and you will definitely go for the one that is low power. But what is important here is to actually know your user case, and how LoRa will stand compared to the others very much depends on your user case. And this is actually the key for the getting things low power, is understanding what is it actually that you want to be accomplishing with the product that that you're producing, right? And how is that gonna actually work, and how is that gonna work in different environments? How is that gonna work in different networks in different locations? Are you gonna be doing any maintenance on them later on? So all of these different things matter, and knowing that to begin with, being very insightful about that, it's the key then to really succeed with whatever technology you have actually picked.
Okay. So given all of that, how can I build the let's talk about some of the considerations I need to take into effect and how they will affect my deployment and power consumption overall. So
I mean, what you need to start obviously is, like I said, user case. And
let's pick a common use case for LoRa, like maybe asset tracking. That feels pretty good, or monitoring.
Quite mobile. I think there are a lot of different ones. It can be. I think we have a lot of questions, customers within agriculture. I think it's interesting, actually, user case, because it does give. It represents a little bit how complex low power can get, because either if you're monitoring something in different places, or if you are in any way in situation where you're creating one device that needs to kind of fit different types of environment, different types of placement, that can actually make a huge difference how you're going to be designing it. So you would pick a technology, and usually people do pick, you pick LoRa because it's low power, you pick LoRa chipsets and modules that are really low power. But what it really matters then is how you are actually putting the software on top of it. Let's say how you're actually designing or integrating the whole device to really think and keep that low power. Because even if you have picked something that is low power to begin with, you have all the freedom to destroy that by actually you going into the development. And one aspect that we really work hard with our customers is this kind of low power mindset, where we are really keen on introducing the measurements throughout the whole development phase. And power measurements haven't been that. I mean, you do measure a lot of different things, but power measurements are not that accessible as you thought they would be. So I would say, if you are really designing something, you need to start measuring very early on. As soon as you have some kind of hardware, if you have to then start continuously measuring to understand what you are doing to that hardware, what are you doing to your user case, how your user case is changing in these different types of scenarios. And that will be kind of the key to success, actually, for later on when you are going into the more mature phases and production and then maintenance later on.
So I should get the gateways, the sensors, and I should track those right away, right? So I've got a baseline power assumption. Then I'm going to make assumptions like, hey, if I want this to check in every 1 minute versus every 5 minutes, what's that going to do to the overall system?
Those absolutely.
Okay.
And of course, if that is going to be, that is perhaps what you're doing in one scenario where your customer is buying. I mean, let's see it this way. most of our customers have customers who are buying not devices, but they're buying some kind of service, right? Some kind of digitalized world, right? And they don't really are bothered about the devices itself. They should be just enablers. So they would pick a user case that could be in a big city, right? Doing something, they're just deploying those there to do something for them, to collect a certain data. And or they're going to be doing something in a, I don't know, very rural environment, you need to then set up those type of scenarios with your gateways to understand whether you're going to be far from the gateway or going to be close to the gateway. Are there going to be any disturbances? How is that going to look like? And if you do know that you're selling the same type of devices to a little bit different applications, let's say, but for the same type of service, then it can get quite complex very quickly.
Yeah,
but you need to know these kind of corner cases.
Okay, yeah, because you've got to measure it both, I guess, in the lab and then in situ when it's there, because there's like the RF environment's going to change it. Oh my goodness. And not to mention, like, if you have like a big concert or something and all these other radios are going to come into play. Okay. And then let's see, what else? Are there any other things that you should think about in terms of optimizing for low power? What other advice would you have for people here who are like really trying to save those battery changes?
Yeah, and this is one of those things that I'm actually going to be talking about quite a lot in my keynote, is that power needs to be introduced in the development quite early on, meaning you need to start measuring straight away. But once you have figured out like a little bit of the behavior that you can expect from your device, please start automating and like make automated measurements and include power measurements into it. Because I think most of us are very confident and very familiar with automatizing these kind of things. But the fact is, the power is not usually something that you would do. And that is because you might lack the instrument. So there is just not that kind of tradition of doing it. And more companies are now introducing power as a part of, say, continuous integration or similar types of automated testing setups.
Okay, so you're saying test for power or test power measurements, automate that process throughout the development cycle.
Yes, absolutely.
Because your software can totally have, like, you can write incredibly power inefficient software that people...
Absolutely. And people do. I think many people are quite unaware of what it is happening. And I think one of the really key things that we have noticed, what our products have helped people, is to visualize this, to really see how the power consumption curve looks like over time with different software connected, and seeing like, okay, so this is actually draining the power, and I didn't see this type of for example spike, why is it there? And then you go dig into the software and realize, I never meant to have this on, or and so on and so on. And I think this is the knowledge that we are trying to help gain for all these developers, because and it needs to be in a very affordable, efficient way to do it, because the community today and how the Internet of Things community in general is growing is not by just large companies with big labs having the means of big, really instrumentation that is really expensive. You need to have this on every developer's table, and you need to kind of put them there, and you need to kind of go through this on an everyday basis. And whatever you change in your hardware or you change in your software, you can be sure that you can see that this change can be visualized, and you can see this on your power profile of the device. And then you can act upon it, and then you can do this more efficient software, or remove something from the hardware, or perhaps find something that helps you kind of keep it low, like we said in the beginning.
Okay, wow, this sounds like it could apply to a lot more than the Internet of Things. So thank you, Vanja.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this interview with us.
Thank you.